name is Martine Boulianne, and I am a professor at the University of Montreal. I will be discussing in the coming minutes about how at the Canadian Poultry Research, we're helping the poultry industry to face societal changes through research. The chair was established in 1999 by various funding members, all part of the feather sector in the province of Quebec. As you're all aware, their consumers are more and more concerned about their food and whether it is in terms of quality, safety, provenance, the way it's being produced. So there's been numerous requests over the past years from consumers and consumer conscious companies on producers. Those have had to adapt to these requests to make changes, but it has brought a fair share, I'd say, not only of changes, but of impact on the animal health. So at the chair of poultry research, we are focusing on some societal changes and consumer requests, such as decreased antimicrobial use in animal production and the alternative housing to conventional cage in layers. So we will be discussing, I'll be discussing antimicrobial stewardship and how we're addressing the various aspects of it in the coming minutes, as well as alternative housing in layers. Of course, education and information is of the utmost importance when it comes to research. Back to our research axis. Antimicrobial stewardship is an important one at the chair in poultry research. And we have been for the past years looking at the effect of antimicrobial use reduction and elimination of those preventive antibiotics in broiler chickens. Those impacts that we have measured at the level of the intestinal health, gut microbiota performances. We also looked at the antimicrobial resistance, but I will not be touching this as well as the governance. I'll be discussing, however, alternatives to antimicrobials as well. We know that our main enemy is Clostridium perfringens when it comes to raising birds without or with less antibiotics. And we then will be looking at the various alternatives to control this disease. So over the past years, the poultry producers, the chicken farmers of Canada have come up with a strategy to reduce the use of antimicrobials. But at the chair in poultry research, we've worked on for the past 10, 12 years on studying the impact of these strategies. It first started with a field trial where we raised antibiotic-free broiler chickens and observed that 25% of the flock over a year period came up with necrotic enteritis. So in our latest field trial, we looked at the strategies to reduce antimicrobial use in broiler chicken. This work was done by Dr. Eric Parent, and he looked at the impact of these strategies on performances and intestinal health, on fecal microbiota composition, and at the relationship between gut microbiota and performances. So in a recently published article, he showed that if you raise chickens with ionophores and and butyric acids, basically there is no statistically significant differences between the various zootenological parameters, between the various treatment groups for the various zootechnological parameters you see on the screen. We also have looked at the impact of these antibiotics on fecal microbiota and have shown that diversity is bacterial diversity and lactose species are important in to preserve gut health and are positively associated with performances. We also have shown that the environment does play a very important role, more so than antibiotic administration, surprisingly. We have, however, observed in the past few years an increase in the cases of Enterococcus saccharum in the province of Quebec. This bacteria does cause bone infection, i.e. spondylitis and osteomyelitis. And what you see are lame birds that will not be picked up, that it will either have to be culled or will not be picked up to go to slaughter. So we have received funding, and we are at this moment developing the diagnostic tools to better identify the pathogens, the pathogenic Enterococcus faecarum strains. And also we're trying to find mitigation protocols or to validate mitigation protocols to see if we can decrease and where we can find Enterococcus faecarum, because we still don't know the pathogenesis. We don't know where it comes from, how it seems to be residing or become a resident in a flock, since we see it flock after flock once it is established on a farm. So this will be very interesting. As I mentioned, our enemy at the chair in poultry research is Clostridium perfringens. So we have received funding from the Canadian Poultry Research Council through the Poultry Cluster 3 and the Canadian Agricultural Partnership to look at vaccines against Clostridium perfringens, whether we'll be using reverse vaccinology, and Mr. Nicolas Deslauriers will be describing his project on reverse vaccinology to develop an innovative vaccine against Clostridium perfringens, or whether we're developing extracellular vesicles to protect broiler chickens against necrotic enteritis. And this work has been explained by Mrs. Laura Guerrero. We are trying to find solutions in vaccines will be efficient against necrotic enteritis. But in order to do that, we also need to have good infection models. So this is why we have developed an effective oral inoculation model. But most importantly, we are using the surgical experimental model, which allows us to compare the virulence of our Clostridium perfringens strain. And in doing so, with all of our research projects, field trials, and collaboration from other researchers, we have a unique bank of more than 2,000 Clostridium perfringens isolates, which we are studying, sequencing, using PCR for taxonotyping, and looking for various genes of virulence that eventually will help us in better understanding the pathogenesis and developing effective tools to prevent necrotic enteritis. We have also looked at the microbiota and believe that the modulation of the gut flora will help us in raising a healthy bird with less antibiotics. This is why we are focusing on bacteriocins and probiotics, essential oils, organic acids, mixtures, and other products in collaboration with various partners from university and industry to find products that will be, or molecules that will be effective against not only Clostridium perfringens, but other poultry pathogens such as Salmonella enteritidis. Another of our research axis has to do with the alternative hen housing. And I've been blessed with a great group of grad students, Héloïse Denis, Magali Wen Saint-Germain, Dr. Rachid Shepta, newcomer Noémie Marcos, to work on basically the impact of aviaries and colony-enriched housing on the intestinal and respiratory health of our birds. This is done in collaboration with the Dr. Godbout at the IRDA and with Dr. Deschaines at the University Laval through their labs. And we're going to be looking at ventilation, bioaerosols. Rachid has explained already his project when it comes to intestinal parasites. And also we've received recently some funding to look at the resistome. So we'll be addressing also public health, the impact of these systems on the genes of resistance to antimicrobials that can be found in such environments. And this has been funded by Innovaction. So in order to perform many of our projects, we are blessed at the Vet College with the Poultry Research Center, which is a unique biosecurity level 2 facility that I built with the concept from the egg to the table. And we have been able to develop various infectious models to test our various vaccines and probiotics and other products efficacy. And it's an amazing facility. So it's been very helpful in conducting our various research projects. Of course, research wouldn't be complete without results dissemination. And this is why not only do we like to do not only presentation and lay articles, but we also have a website at the chair, and we produce also brochure and videos for producers to help them to improve the brooding, to calibrate their medicators, and so on and so forth. So I'd like to, to finish my presentation, I'd like to thank the amazing research team that I have and all of the amazing grad students who I had the honor to mentor in the past years. I have precious collaborators, other researchers that are passionate about what they're doing, great participating producers, the Poultry Industry Association, and generous funding agencies. Thank you. And if you have any question, I'll be happy to answer.
So, oh, I see one question. Oh, how significant is the Secorum issue in Quebec and Canada? E-Secorum in Quebec, what we've seen is basically in 2014, a number of cases at the Quebec Diagnostic Lab system was 99 for 2014. It was first observed in 2010 in Quebec, and in 2018, we had approximately 99 cases, only 99 cases. But then over the past 2 years, it has tripled, and we're over, in terms of submission to the Quebec lab, 300 cases a year. So it is fairly significant. And what really is a source of, I guess, problem is that once it is established in a barn, it seems that it will be a recurring problem. And some of our practitioners also do see some seasonal trends. So it'll be interesting to see what are the various causal agents or the various risk factors that can be associated with this disease. But there's been some interesting papers also in North Carolina and in in Germany, but there's still, there's very little known about it. In the other provinces, I don't know how prevalent it is, unfortunately. When I talk to some colleagues, they do see it, but we haven't talked prevalence yet. So that is all I will say. And